Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
Hi everyone, Jason Hunt here, inviting you to join us every Saturday morning for news. The week's headlines in science fiction, fantasy, horror, comic books, video games, plus Comic-Con updates and the weather, and the occasional interview along the way. We call it Good Morning Multiverse. We hope you join us every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 Central, right here on Sci-Fi For Me TV.
Madness Entertainment Group presents the Madness Comic Network with original programming and additional comic-related content. Tune in and subscribe to Comic Talk with Pops Van Zandt on YouTube.
America's southern border has become a war zone. Human traffickers, drug smugglers, and terrorists flow across the Rio Grande with impunity, secure in the knowledge that no one will stop them. A distant federal government lectures Americans on their privilege while punishing overworked Border Patrol agents who were helpless to stem the tidal wave of invaders and determined migrants. Second-generation Cuban-American Marcos Zamora is a military vet, more patriotic than most Americans. No longer able to ignore the chaos at his doorstep, he acts. Joined by his best friend Gus, they hit the border every night, saving lives while stopping violent drug cartels and other opportunists. The government reacts with fury at Marcos' attempts to preserve American sovereignty, deploying the full might of their enforcement agencies. But Marcos understands that the only thing the rich and powerful fear is bad publicity, and he records every encounter. Whoever he is, this private American must be stopped. Illustrated by Richard Bonk and written by Eisner winner Mike Baron, Private American is his version of Captain America, and maybe a little Punisher, taking part in this ongoing, violent, and very real battle of good versus evil in the war for American sovereignty. Grab your copy at theprivateamerican.com.
We have a secure border, and that is a priority for our administration. Hello Kickstarter, I am Todd Black and I am here once again with Tokyo Blade Detectives, this time for issue number 6. Now, in number 5, we just kicked off a brand new arc called The Contract. In it, Miko and Michio get a client who is being hunted by an assassin group known as the Nine Tails. They are one of the 5 factions of Tokyo. And at the end of that issue, they were in a very dire situation with Nine Tails literally barreling down on them trying to get their client. Issue number 6, I like to jokingly call The Raid after the famous action movie, because this is the most action-packed issue I have ever done with any comic I have ever had. I'm not even joking about that. And so much of this issue, after the 5 pages of setup that you'll see below, focuses on the action between Miko, Michio, and the Nine Tails, and all that they have to do to try and keep Satoshi alive or try to kill him if he's the ninth tail. As I said, this is a very action-focused issue, but we are going to have some very fun dialogue moments and a twist at the end. It's going to be good, I promise. So, as per usual with my Kickstarters, I have plenty of rewards for you to get. You can get the comic physically, you can get the comic digitally. If you're new to Tokyo Blade Detectives, please do not click away out of fear that you don't know the story. We will have all 5 issues, previous issues, available to you, as well as number 6. So you can get all 6 comics of the series right here on this Kickstarter. I want to make sure that this is as welcoming to newcomers as it is to returning friends. And you can still get drawn into the comic. We have a very fun place to put you in the comic this time around. You're not going to see it coming, I promise. And you can still get every other comic that I have made, from Guardians, Home, 10,000 Miles, my Thunder Rosa series off the AEW wrestler, and more. So check the rewards over on the right and see what you want to do. And as always, pledge what you can. Okay? I know times are still hard, and I know some of you like to support me, but please pledge what you are able to. That is all I can ask of you. And if you can't pledge, spread the word. That really does help. We had a really big success because of all of you who pledged to number 5. And if we can match that, great. If we don't, that's fine. My goal is to make the comic. We have 10 pages done already, and we're going to be working on the other 10 as the Kickstarter goes on, because we are confident that we will get funded, and we will do all we can to get it done and to get it to you as soon as possible. So check out the rewards, check out the preview pages below, and welcome to Tokyo once again. Let the raid begin.
Critical Blast, where pop culture gets blasted.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Todd Black.
No, thank you.
Surprised our chat with the retro video there, thing, because we have one that's like 30 seconds long, but I played yours and I looked down like, holy cow, 3 minutes of video. Was not expecting that. It's not like I couldn't have looked.
You could have looked. And I didn't tell you to download the video. That was on you.
No, it was definitely on me, and I would have played it anyway. I just might have like cut out of some of the other ones that I played in front of it. It's like,
don't worry about it.
But we are here, and we have opened the top on another podcast tonight to talk about crowdfunded comics. And you've made 6 of these things, and you have not landed on my radar at all. So time to turn that stealth off and start pushing this comic our way, because I need to know about this.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I don't blame you at all. In fact, I was referred to you by our dear friend Pops, and crowdfunding is such a popular thing nowadays that if you aren't like backing every single one, someone like me is totally going to slip through the cracks. It happens, so don't feel bad.
Yeah, but you've done 6.
Well, 6 of this series. This is actually my 12th Kickstarter that I've had successful. So
that makes it worse.
I'm like a ninja. I only appear when I want to be seen.
That doesn't. That you're not helping. I'm like, I'm supposed to know these things. Well,
now
at least when it comes to the comics.
Yeah.
So you've obviously found a niche that keeps you funded because this is number 12 or is it 13?
Well,
I don't know. Like Dr. Regenerations now. Is it? How do we count them?
it's like, well, I have had a lot of success, and it's all because of the people. I started out my Kickstarter career horribly. I was an idiot in true fashion.
Yeah.
Like my first, you can look it up. My first Kickstarter ever was called The Next Stan Lee. I still cringe thinking about it, but
that's a high bar to call yourself.
I was in college, so I was just like, oh, this will totally work. It didn't work at all.
No.
Then once I actually got my head screwed on right, and I started with the fantasy series, and I did that for 5 issues, and I did a graphic novel, and that was a one shot, so I was number 6, and then 6 issues of Tokyo. So I've bounced around a bit, but I found people who trust me to get the work done, and we have our number 6 up right now. It's in our final day, dear viewers. So if you want to check it out, this is the last day to do so.
21 hours to go. 82 backers. Remember that number, folks. And if you want to see this thing, we're going to put it up on the screen. We do that. But the link is right below the video. You can click it at any time. This is the last day to throw money at it, and it's a Kickstarter. Literally. So guess what? You don't have to remember a month down the road that the money's coming out. It's over today. The money's coming out right now. So if you're one of those guys like moi who doesn't back Kickstarters until the last day because you forget, and then you spend the money, and then Kickstarter says, hey, and then you're all embarrassed, and you got to change credit cards and say, okay, take it from here. Now is the time.
Oh, so that means you're going to back my Kickstarter. Good to know.
Very possible. Very possible. You gotta talk me into it. Okay. What do you do on this now? I mean, because there's some people that are like, I'm the writer, I'm the artist. I know some people like, I had an idea, I hired a writer and an artist, and I'm just selling the book.
Wow, that's a brilliant person. But
yeah,
I'm Todd Black. I am the writer and creator of this comic. I have written everything, and then I have multiple artists with me, Lam Vivon and Alex Garcia. Lam does the interiors, Alex does the amazing covers, and it's this team that has been working on all 6 issues, which is why we have a very consistent look. And I'm very proud of my team, and I am honored to be writing this comic, and that so many people have been enjoying it.
So one of the things that I've watched very little anime.
That's fine.
I've read a long time ago some manga.
Ooh.
So it's like I was Vampire Prince, and it was still kind of that title structure I'm looking at here was Vampire Princess Mia. Or Yui, Vampire Princess Yui. Actually, I think Mia spun off from there. They were all vampire princesses. I never saw one of them drink blood from anybody.
That sucks.
Well, it didn't actually. That was the point.
That was fun.
I know, and I played off of it.
Uh-huh.
But there's a structure to Japanese manga that the titles are these long. The titles are a sentence
at times,
and sometimes the story is actually related to it. Woody, are you? Woody's booing our puns. I'm sorry, Woody. I am an incorrigible punster, so please do not encourage me to do so.
He's insulting us. I'm pretty sure he's barking up the wrong tree.
I know. Oh, is that Ellen barking? I hear.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. So how did you come up with your? Is it really just throw some cities, throw some weapons, and throw some other words into a bag, and then pull one out of each, like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Okay, this story is 100% true, and I apologize if it sounds just insane, but this is how things happen in my world. I was on Facebook, and those like memes that's like make your own monster truck name or whatever, and it's like
yes.
First letter of your first name, last letter of your last name, something like that. So mine was, what is your anime title? And I'm an anime fan, not obvious, and I'm like, okay, let's do this. This is some fun. So it's first letter of your first name, so T. First letter of your last name, B, and last letter of your last name, D. So, sorry, last letter of my first name, which is D. So it was TBD, and I looked it up, and it was Tokyo Blade Detectives. And I go, now at this point in time, the first Deadpool movie was coming out. And in the trailer for that movie, the character Weasel said, Deadpool sounds like a franchise. And that line stuck in my head. And so when I said Tokyo Blade Detectives, I went, Tokyo Blade Detectives sounds like a franchise. I hit enter in the comments and I clicked off the page.
And the rest is mystery. I mean,
No.
yeah.
No, that's not it. That's not the end. That's part one. Part two is that I stopped. I didn't even think about it. I was just making a joke and then I left. And later in the day, I saw I had a notification on Facebook and this guy, I had no idea who he was. And I'm like, who is this guy? And because he replied to my comment. I'm like, okay. So I clicked on it and it was the meme page. And it goes, that does sound like a franchise. So why don't you write it? I'm like, okay. So I looked at the title, Tokyo Blade Detectives, and I'm like, all right, so Tokyo, obvious it's in Japan. Detectives, okay, I can work with that. But
police procedural.
Yeah, something like that. And obviously if it's detectives, it's in the modern day, because there was no detectives in feudal Japan. So I'm like, okay, but Blade. Why are the blades there? Like, this is modern, potentially futuristic since it's an anime. So why would there be blades in a modern, setting? And that's when the line hit me. In a land where guns are outlawed, only the blade can rule. And I was like, oh! And so right then, the floodgates of my imagination, which is not insignificant, flooded. And all of a sudden, all these ideas started coming into my brain. And I literally had to do something I usually never do. I went into Microsoft Word and I made an outline document. I never do that. I'm usually so good at remembering this stuff, but I had so many ideas of like the factions, the laser shorts and the characters and who I wanted it to be that I had to write it out. So I wrote out an outline and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is such a great idea. But I had a problem. I was already working on other comic projects at the time and I'm not made of money. So I was like, put a pin in this. So I had to wait 2 years and then that, it was worth it though. And then I had to find the right artist, which is how I got Lam Vivon. And it took me like months to find Lam. I was looking for a very specific anime style and I had a whole bunch of people apply, but it just wasn't right. And then I found Lam and I'm like, can you do this page? And he goes, yeah. And he did it. And then the rest is history. But
now that's how you can tell an anime fan when they have to look at several anime artists to find the right style. Me, I'm like, I walk in, my son would watch different animes and they were like the franchise animes, the episodic stuff. Mm-hmm. I was like, is that the same kid with green spiky hair that you were watching yesterday? He's like, no, Dad, that was Beyblade. This is, and it's like, they don't all look alike. There's Ghost in the Shell and everything else. Mm-hmm. So the fact that you can look at that style versus this style and say, I like this one, don't like that one. I'm like, they're both big eye, bubblehead, precious moments people.
Well, for me, it's not just that. You are entirely right on that, by the way. But for me, it's kind of like an instinct. I had an idea of what I wanted to look like, the flashy colors, the movements, because again, it's gonna be a comic, not like a pure anime. So, I had to make sure it was conveyed right, especially since we're gonna have a bunch of sword battles. And I had this one guy, he drew my main character of Miko in like this super epic, hyper realistic fashion, yet it still looks like an anime. And I'm like, that is beautiful, but I wouldn't want to see that in a comic. And I even told him that. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, this is so incredible, but it's just like, it's too good. It's like, it's like Deadpool 2 when he met Celine Dion. It's too good. You're at an 11. We need to bring it down. 5.5. Just phone it in. Deadpool references on the show today. But like, I needed this specific style. And when Lam came around, it was just like, that's it. Like, I knew the moment he drew the page, like, that's the style I needed.
So you just told Lam, you're good, but not so good.
Yeah, you're right at the level. Well, the irony was that Lam was actually better than I expected because, to go further into the backstory, the cover artist, Alex Garcia, is my go-to artist. Like, we've done so many comics together. And at one point I was so frustrated with Tokyo. I'm like, can we do this with you, Alex? He goes, yeah, sure. So he did this first page. And then right as we get started, he gets called off on another project. Totally fine. It was actually another one I was working on with him. And I'm like, this is good, but I feel we could just do it a little bit better. And I told Alex this and he understood. But with Lam, it was just like he took it to that next level, like that upgrade that I needed. And then when we got into actual like sword battles, he blew me away with how he drew the swords and the characters and the action sequences.
Well, yeah, he's sitting here doing weights like 5.5. I'll show him 5.5.
Yeah, it's like, I'll take it to 7 and he'll like it. So it was just, it's about finding the right balance between, this is going to look good versus this is what I need for the comic. And I do that with all my books. In fact, I'm about to do that with another project soon. And, like I've seen so many fantastic artists, and it's been a pleasure looking at them all. And some of them I go, what, if I was doing this book, they would totally be awesome. And I'll even make sure I have their names in case I need them. But other ones is like, this isn't right. These don't look as good as I feel that they should. That's the hardest part for me, is that I get introduced to so many great artists, and it's like I have to pick one out of 100 if I'm lucky. So
I do get what you mean though about by something being too good to be a comic, because there are people who do pinup art.
Yeah,
and I don't mean I do mean like Vargas, but stuff that's like, this is a great print, but print followed by print followed by print isn't necessarily sequential art.
Exactly,
it doesn't quite have the dynamic action feel to it.
I had in my book Home, we actually had a special reward for pinup art. A friend of mine wanted to do pinup art. I'm like, why don't you do pinups of my characters? And it was great stuff, but it's good for prints. It had this shading style. I'm like, that's a great print, but I wouldn't want to see that in a comic book. It's their styles, and that's just the way it is.
So let's backpedal here through some years, because we're starting off in media race here with Tokyo Blade Detectives. At some point, you sit down and say, you know what? Comics. Yeah, there's money there.
Well, potentially.
Foolish man. How did you get actually started producing comics? And was it self-published, or were you working with an indie company, or forming your indie company?
Up until this year, I have always been self-published. I have one book out with Source Point Press, if you're familiar with them.
I am.
And thank you. Check out 5 Bullets, 6 Men. We can check that out. We'll talk about that later. But
you'll have partners coming soon. My buddies who make Hocus Hocus are coming to Source Point, I believe.
Yeah. Sorry. So I grew up on comic characters, not comic books, comic characters. So I grew up on Batman the Animated Series, Kevin Conroy, rest in peace. X-Men animated series, Spider-Man, Justice League, Batman Beyond. I grew up on this stuff, and it was amazing. And then when I was 18, I found out I had a comic book store near me. And so I'm like, finally, I can read the comics, and it was awesome. And then I went to a Comic-Con called C2E2 in Chicago, and there was a panel called Breaking Into Comics the Marvel Way. And I try to go to the panel every year when it's there. And on the panel in that year, 2012, was Matt Fraction, who is a legendary comic writer. And I said, and I kind of went there just to see if I could do it, like what they said about making comics, because I was totally fish out of water. And I go, I'm a writer. I want to make a comic. I have an idea. What do I do? And Matt Fraction looks at me and he goes, if you want to make a comic, go find an artist and make some comics. I'm like, okay. So
simple.
Yeah, sounds simple. 2 years later, I am still trying to make comics. And that was actually where I had that failed Kickstarter, was in between those 2 years. And I had to learn some things on the fly. Like, this was before Comixology. Like, right when I was starting to make comics was when Comixology Submit came around. So I got lucky on there, and I decided to pony up some money I had made at my job, which I hated. And I made my first comic book, which is called Guardians, which is a superhero series. And I found 2 artists via a site that's no longer there, which sucked because I really liked that site. It's called CG Hub. And their names were Engchi Chua and Alex Garcia. And they were like, we'll make your comic with you. And we did. And then we made another. And then we made another. And then I went broke, because it realized, like, oh yeah, I gotta actually make money to make comics. And so
yeah, it's a fun hobby, but at some point,
so I had to take some months off, and then we finished it, the first arc of Guardians, and I had done Comixology Submit, and like the arrogant fool I was, I'm like, okay, this is totally gonna make me money. So I had to work out a deal with Alex, who became my full-time artist on Guardians after Ang-Chi had to leave. And we just started making one comic after another, after another, after another. We at one point, we were literally doing a comic a month, which I'm still shocked that we did back then. And
It's like an actual company.
We trying. I was trying. Like if anyone else says anything about my career, I try. Okay, I try to make this work. And so we made 20 issues of Guardians, which I still sell to this day at Comic Cons. And then I realized that even though I was doing Comic Cons and doing kind of well, I needed to branch out more. And there was this there's this publisher called Oni Press, and they had a contest for submissions. And it was my first true opportunity to submit anything to anybody. And they go, we're looking for some stories. There are 2 rules: no superheroes. It has to be a limited series. So I'm like, okay. And I came up with an idea called Home, and then 10,000 Miles. I submitted both. Neither got accepted. And so that's when I started Kickstarter again. And I put everything I had into Home to make it work, and I succeeded. All 5 issues. Then we did 10,000 Miles, and it's one of my most successful Kickstarters ever. And then I started doing side hustles. I have a science comic called Seekers of Science that I work with some really incredible people to make. It's an education comic. Then I worked with the AEW wrestler Thunder Rosa from AEW, and we made 3 issues of her life story in comic form, and it was awesome. I wrote 5 novels called Sherlock Holmes: The Greatest Detective. Public domain, baby. It's a thing.
Yeah.
And then I started doing Tokyo, which we're now on 6 issues, and I've got some other projects in the works. And so I've been doing this for about 8-9 years now, and I've got 40 plus books to my name. And all but one are self-published. And I mentioned a Source Point Press, 5 Bullets, 6 Men. We released that this year. Big honor. And I'm just grinding, just doing the indie grind. So
you can't stop. You can't stop.
You can't stop.
Because you've got to have something ready to go as soon as something's finished. Otherwise, there's this pause.
I'm bored.
Where do you go?
Yeah. Well, it's not just that. It's like I get that creative boredom where I'm like, okay, I'm working on this project. What's next? And I have too many ideas in my head. Like I'm working on one project right now, a heist comic, and I already know the next one I want to do once this arc of Tokyo is done. And it's a mystery-esque comic, and which I've never done a mystery-esque outside of 5 Bullets, 6 Men, which is noir. And then I'm like, okay, what's that one? I have another anime idea, but I don't want to do that anime when I'm doing this anime because, I don't want to confuse the market and all that. And I got an alien comic I want to do. I got a space comic I want to do. It's just like, there's so many ideas, but I need to have these like in an order, which ones I feel I can do, which ones are long form versus mini series versus, limited run kind of things. And I love it. It's so stressful. It's so stressful, but I love it when I can hold the book, here's Tokyo, when I can hold the book and say, I made this.
Yes.
I made it.
I know the feeling. We're a publisher. So, it's we make books, and I've been published by other publishers myself. So yeah, that especially the first one. The cherry popping book is always the best one.
Yep, Guardians #0 for me, and that was a big moment. I'm like, I made a comic book. I actually did this stuff.
So what is your script writing technique like on a scale of, hey, Jack, Spidey fights Doc Ock and goes on a date with a new girlfriend, to Alan Moore, page 1, panel 1. There's a butterfly coming in from the northwest corner. It's flying at about 2.5 miles per hour. The breeze is coming up from the ground, carrying bits of dew and moisture with it.
I like that. That's good. All I need is
that's Alan Moore.
I believe you. I believe you.
His script for page 1 of Watchmen was 11 pages long.
I did not know that. But that sounds very good. I believe you. I absolutely believe you based on everything I've heard about Alan Moore. So I hear that there are two kinds of writers out there. I know there's more, but the basic ones are the people who plan everything, like an Alan Moore, and then there's the people who fly by the seat of the pants, which is George R.R. Martin. Maybe that's why Game of Thrones isn't done yet.
Yeah, he didn't script. You're like, where do I go from here?
So for me, I am more of a George R.R. Martin kind of character, and except I haven't died yet. But I have a loose outline in my mind, and then what I'll do is I'll go into the script, and I'll usually have like a good idea of like the first page or so, and then I just let it flow. And there's a lot of ideas. Yes, they are, Woody. I haven't even mentioned them all. You should see one that's very much a mangaka. It's yeah. And I even have one.
He's like that cursed guy in Sandman. He's scraping them on the walls with bloody fingernails.
Yeah, I hope that's not me in my future, but you never know. My dreams aren't always nice. But I start off and I just write it, and I just write it, and I try to get like everything done in one day. So I'll like dedicate a couple hours to the script and then just see where it goes from there. For obviously the longer scripts, it takes multiple days, like the one I'm working on right now. But I just let it flow, and then in terms of details, I do try and get detailed at times, but other times, this issue of Tokyo Blade Detective is a great example. I'll say, panels 1 through 3, fight scene with these characters, have fun, because I want to let my artist have some freedom. There's so many people who have different opinions on, what the writer should tell the artist and what the artist should do. I prefer a symbiosis relationship where I let them have fun, but I also need them to do specific things at certain panels. And I've told Alex, Lam, Beth, and all my other artists that I've worked with that, okay, this is great, but you missed the intent of the point or of the panel, and I need you to redo. And they go, oh, okay, I understand. So they know I will never ask them more than I am willing to budge. Like if there's something that I think they did better than my panel description, I'll totally leave it. But if it's a critical plot point that I need this scene to look a certain way, I will harp on it because I feel it's important to the story. But
you got to tell the artist you're leaving St. Louis, you're going to San Francisco. That has to be done. You're going to drive through Vegas, so have fun.
Vegas.
Yeah.
So, but I
do what you will there.
Yeah, I try to have fun with the scripts, and details when they're needed, creativity when it's encouraged, and then when I'm done, I'll send it off to the editor, which I've been very good about having the last few issues and series. Especially Tokyo has been one I've had heavily edited over the years, and
it's important.
Well, when I started, I couldn't afford an editor. That's just the truth. And then I would go to my comic friends and supporters to, have them read it and whatever. But with Tokyo, I saw this as a kind of an elevation of my comic writing. I wanted this to be like a standout series, which I do think it is. And so I went to actually some people from Sourcepoint Press who were also editors, David Hayes and Casey Pierce. And they edited the first few issues, and then a novel friend of mine, she edited one, and then my buddy Matt Shore, who's also a comic writer, he's edited a few. So I keep losing my editors. It happens. But
driving them crazy? Oh, is it?
Well, it's honestly, they just keep getting busy. Like David got busy. He referred me to Casey, who I knew very well. Then she went to Greece. Kid you not. She's like, yeah, I'm gonna be in Greece now, so I don't have time to edit the comic. I'm like, okay. So then she referred me to someone else who's working on some of my newer projects, which is great. And she's staying so far. And she says she loves my work. So hopefully that'll be a long lasting relationship. But I like having that as I've matured, which is a weird thing for me to say. I've matured. What? But
scary thought.
I know, right? But as I've matured as a writer, I'm like, I need to have the second pair of eyes, especially with these bigger books that I feel will have a bigger impact and will resonate with people. I trust myself to an extent, but I make mistakes. I make them all the gosh dang time.
Because you're so close to it.
Yes, that's exactly it.
And one of the problems that writers have is that not you specifically, and certainly not me. Well, sometimes me. But we have this great idea, and you tell your friend about this is the story that I'm going to write. And then, you tell somebody else, this is the story I'm going to write, and subplots start to creep in, and you're like, and then I'm going to do this with that person. And then comes the time when you have to sit down at the keyboard. And the problem that you now encounter is that your brain says, we've told this story. I don't want to do this story again. And it never gets out. So, I always encourage people that are like, I want to write this book. I'm like, write it. Now,
write it.
Tell the page the story, and then tell everybody else what it's doing, because otherwise you'll lose that urgency about it.
My thing I like to tell people, and this is I see this as a catchphrase for my comics career, is you have to believe in the comic. because everyone says like you said, like, oh, I have this idea, oh, I have this idea, I have this idea.
Yep.
How many of them actually get done? And that was me for 2 years, because I'm like, I have the idea for Guardians, I want to make it, and it's like, well, haven't you? And some of it was financial, I won't lie, but the other part was like, I haven't written it yet. And with Home and 10,000 Miles and everything that came after, I have to believe in the story, because if I can't believe in it, why should any of you? Like, I have Kickstarter going right now, and I have an anime comic, but like, why should people read this anime comic? If I can't convey it like I did in my video or with the pages and whatever, if I can't explain to people why this is the story they need to read, that they should check out, that they should give it a chance, why should anyone care? Belief is so important, because it's not just your self-confidence, it's your ability to say, I believe in it, so should you.
Well, let's show people this comic that we're so vociferously extolling tonight. So I played the video. I saw more of you than I saw these guys. So your video,
play my editor,
tells me about the campaign. Tells me everything that's in the campaign. I don't know a thing about the story or the characters because they weren't there. But that's okay. That's why we're here now.
All right.
So again, still at 82 backers. I'm looking at you, chat. I mean, I look over here because that's where the chat is, but I'm looking at you, chat. Help me out on this.
Help me out on this.
Yeah, exactly.
So okay, let me give you the backstory on Tokyo Blade Detectives. So this is about Japan 200 years into the future. The country's been burned to the ground by war, rebuilt with technology, and to try and stop the madness, they make a law that no one can break. No guns allowed.
How do they enforce it, and why do the bad guys not have them if they break laws?
There is a rule. There is a way, and we actually tease it in the first arc. We don't want to do the big reveal yet because we have a big moment planned for it. But let's just say that this law has been around for a while, and no one breaks it unless they're really stupid. So let's just suspense. So to fill the power vacuum, they make laser swords. There you go. Yeah, that sound effect sounds familiar. So they get these laser swords, and that causes 5 factions to rise up in the capital of Tokyo, and their goal is to take over the country because that's what bad guys do. And each one's different. Each one has their own ideology and beliefs about what Japan should be. And as a result, the capital city is perpetually in a state of chaos. There's even a map that we show in the first arc where the sections of the city are divided up by where the gangs are, or the factions are, and they shift constantly because these factions are fighting one another. And our main character, Miko, who is the girl in the background doing the overhead slash, she's a 16-year-old detective, and she, in the first arc, gets a case that changes everything about what's going to happen.
I love this about anime and manga. 16-year-old detective.
Yeah.
Like, I was a sophomore in high school. I couldn't figure out how to drive the car.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Miko is 16, and she is teen angst personified, ladies and gentlemen. Her first word in the first page of the comic, the very first page of the series, her first word is die, because she's gonna kill some people, and she just doesn't care. She's like, "You're gonna die, and I'm about to kill you," and she does. So
apparently, I made the critical mistake of saying that we were going to take a look at your anime comic. Yes, Mike, I know that means it's manga. The manga's on paper, anime's in movement.
Well, okay. Here's the way I say it. I say anime style comic or an anime inspired comic. If you'll scroll down just a little bit, RJ.
I got to get the mouse on the right screen.
There you go. So as you can see, this is very much a Western style comic. It's colors. Manga calls black and white, and that's fine. But this for me was everything within the comic was inspired by anime and my appreciation of Japanese culture. And Japan has been a huge influence on my life, not just since I discovered anime, but just in my life. I love history. I love, feudal Japan and samurai and ninjas and shoguns and all that. And so I put everything that I have learned about Japanese culture and some things I looked up on the internet, and I incorporated it into this comic. For example, with the 5 factions, each one represents a different part of Tokyo's history, either real or anime. For example, the characters you see on the screen right now are the assassins known as the Nine Tails. Nine Tails is, of course, a reference to the nine-tailed fox, which you know from Japanese culture or Naruto. And the leader, who is the woman in blue, her name is Rika, who is a reference to Digimon Season 3, the character of Rika, who had, wait for it, a golden fox. And her one of her evolutions, Sakuyamon, is the base plate of the Nine Tails' armor, because it was just a really cool looking Digimon. We have a religious group called the Tao, which is a reference to Taoism, which is big in Japan. It started in China, but it went to Japan as well. They use technology to make it look like they're magic and thus blessed, but it's just all technology. It's really cool. And then we have the Empress, which is a reference to a Japanese wrestler named Asuka, who I totally have a crush on. Not unhealthy at all, putting her in a comic book. Then we have the Ronin, which is a very big part of Japanese culture, which is, samurai without a master. They play a big role in the series. And then we have the yokai, which are our terrorists. They are the monsters that you never want to see, and they have laughs that will chill you to the bone. So,
no kaiju, no yakuza. That's what I want to see. I want to see yakuza fight kaiju. There's a comic. Never mind. Forget I said that.
No, I'll take that. Let's see. Yakuza versus Godzilla. Okay, so
Yakaiju. Oh.
So yeah, but I understand the confusion, but this is my anime style comic. It's a Western comic style, but with full on anime influences. Okay. And I put a lot of passion into this, and to show respect for Japan in how it looks, how it sounds, the references to history, even though it's 200 years in the future. And people who know anime or just know Japan in general, I think they'll really feel a connection with this.
Now, I'm not going to put that comment up on the screen, but anime and manga comics right now are getting a lot of flack from, Vice.com. They did their whole, oh my God, all their characters are 16 years old. Do you realize how wrong that is?
Yeah.
Nobody's bothering you with that, right? I mean, you've got a comic.
Okay. Look, I'm going to be the first to admit, I'll happily admit that as much as I love Japan, they're freaking crazy with who they put into their stories at times. And I personally don't like it. I have a really good friend who eats it up. He loves the what's a good word for it? The voluptuousness of these characters at times. You will not see that in my book outside of one character who is a full-grown adult, I promise you. And it's the Empress. And that's actually because of the artist. I didn't tell him to do that, and he just drew her a certain way. And I'm like, it's an anime. I'll allow it. And
there will be no chicken restraint in this comic.
Yeah,
there is no chicken restraint. You have to figure in.
Yeah.
It's not that kind of comic.
Yeah, but I promise you that this is not one of those comics that flaunt the female figure, especially of the underage variety. I prefer to just be about deep characters, and I mean, I have some striking characters, and as you can see these panels, I got some really good visuals and outfits and hairstyles. I've got the anime feel to it, but I am a bit more restrained in terms of like the looks, at least. There is a lot of violence in this comic. I'm not gonna lie. Like I said, Miko kills a lot of people in the first 2 pages of the book, and I apologize, not at all. So,
well, they got laser swords.
Laser swords.
Yeah. Look, what's the point of having them if things don't get chopped off?
Yeah. Okay. So funny story about that. I was actually nervous. This is by far the most mature comic I've done in terms of violence, and I'm like, my first editor, David Hayes. I'm like, I'm a little worried because I need to show violence. Like, this is the culture that this Tokyo is in, but I don't want it to be a gory mess because I know that'll scare off some people, including people who I know support me throughout all my journeys. And he goes, well, wait a minute, Todd, you said they were laser swords, right? I'm like, yeah. Well, laser swords would cauterize any wound that they make.
I was going to say that.
And I'm like, oh, just like Luke getting his arm chopped off, it was cauterized. That's why it didn't bleed. And so I'm like, oh, perfect. And so, people die a lot in these books, but you'll never see them bleed. And that's my loophole. Is like, it's laser swords. They're not going to bleed. They're cauterized. So
that works. No Fist of North Star where the guy just kind of slides.
It's like you're already dead.
Yeah. We all know that line.
Yeah.
You're already, you don't even know it yet.
Yeah. It's like I touched you with my knuckle and you're already dead. But,
This guy reminds me of Zoltar.
Ooh.
For reasons I don't understand, but it's still triggering that visual in me because Battle of the Planets was what I grew up watching, as well as who were the bad guys on Speed Racer? They were but the bad guy leader had a mask on too sometimes.
Yeah,
big pointy nose sticking out. But it's a Japanese thing. The bad guys wear these feudal style masks.
Yeah, and that's something I made sure to impart was that in a lot of the outfits you're going to see in the story outside of Miko's are very culturally ancient. Like they're going to have like kimonos and they're going to have like the Raiden hats and whatever. That's because in the story they wanted to revert to a more traditional style to embrace the new look of everything. And even though they're very futuristic, they wanted to go back to that feudal style. And then you'll see, the future clash, which is, the laser swords, the technology. Miko's outfit can sprout butterfly wings and she can glide through the air. It's really awesome. Yeah, we have hover boots, we have flashbangs, we got, holograms of the highest order. It's really clever. And so it's, a mix of the old school with the new school just to create this really interesting story.
As we move forward into technology, there are times when we have to stop and be nostalgic with it. This is my storyline that explains why Star Trek Enterprise has touchscreens and Star Trek the original series has flip switches. They went back. It's like there was touch sickness or something. I don't know. But yeah, the technology went backwards for a while.
There you go.
So let's take a look at what the tiers are here.
Yeah, I try with my Kickstarters to have a wide array of tiers so that if you can pledge $1, that's fine. If you can pledge $150, which is our biggest reward, by all means. And we have digital rewards, we have physical rewards, we have some extra perks. For example, the one you're on right now, that's the $3 reward. If you pledge there,
$3 for PDF.
Yeah, $3 for PDF. And so that'll get
pages.
20 pages.
Standard size.
Thank you. And there are no ads. All right, like I hate like today's comics where it's just like it's so packed full of ads. I'm trying to read the bloody story. The only thing you'll see is in like the front inside cover and the back inside cover. All the pages are just the story. So if you want just the digital copy, you'll get pledge $3. If you want the physical copy mailed right to you, that's $10. And then for some of you out there, no, not you, to your right. Yes, you. Okay. So if you want. Here we go, right there, the one you're on right now. If you want the whole series because you haven't heard of this before, RJ, and you need to catch up, that's the reward for you. For $10, you'll get all 6 issues digitally sent right to you. So that's a perfect catch-up way to read the whole story, including number 6, and you won't have to worry about missing anything in case you think I didn't explain something good enough. I do apologize. And that's a perfect way to catch up. And then if you want a physical copy, that's right there.
There we go. This is the first one, I think, where you actually get, this is the first one where you get actual physical product mailed to you.
Yes. So and that's, as you can see, that's one of my more popular rewards. A lot of people keep saying, but digital comics, there are plenty of people who want physical comics, trust me.
Yes.
All right.
You'll never stop either.
Yeah, for the $15 rewards, we have 2 really special ones. You can get your name put into the thank you page, which is on the inside front cover of every comic. And I like doing that just because it helps me show appreciation for the people who helped make it. And that one, the Digital Fight Collection, is one of my favorite rewards and arguably one of our more popular across the whole series. If you pledge to this reward, you will get all 6 issues of Tokyo, should you need them. You will get all 20 issues of Guardians, 5 issues of Home, 10,000 Miles, the graphic novel, the entire Thunder Rosa series. That's 3 issues. So you're going to get over 40 comics.
The library.
A library for $15 digitally.
$15 for a digital. Okay, I know there's plenty of people out there in my audience who have to get digital only. $15 for 45 comics. I'm not even going to do the math on that.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Because it involves decimals and carrying. But I do have a calculator, and it comes out to being 3. No, that's not right. $3 a piece. I've done something wrong. 15 divided by 45. That's the direction you want to go. It's wow. It's 33 cents a book. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you
And
go, guys.
yeah, and
Got that
I also
short.
forgot to mention, if you get that tier, you'll also get my Sherlock Holmes novels, which I have 5 of. So that's comics and novels digitally to you for $15.
Tell you what, it takes a lot of chutzpah to write a Sherlock Holmes novel, because he's a smart guy, which means you have to be smart guy to come up with something to challenge the smart guy with, and then let him solve it.
It's been a pleasure figuring out these mysteries. And I have had to do some major Google searches to make sure that I'm doing something that is actually in the realm of possibility. So I had to look up how to make thermite once. I'm not saying I made thermite.
Oh, don't worry. You are in the of all writers, where we're all wondering what day the FBI is going to knock on our door. I've written the Destroyer series with Remo Williams, and I had to come up with plausible terrorist threats.
Yeah, and I've had to do that too in my Sherlock books. I'm like, okay, what would this terrorist do here? And so, yeah. But so you'll get, again, like 45 books basically for $15 digitally if you pledge there. So if you go to the $25 tier, which is the next one, that one, yeah. I will. Yeah, that one's, you can get the entire digital series, but you can also get the current issue physically. That's a very popular one for some reason. I don't know why, but people pledge to it, so I make it every time. This one is one of 2 tiers where I will help you make comics. I have been blessed in my life to have people help me make comics. I can name plenty of people here, and I want to do that for you. So if you are someone who wants to make a comic, especially if you are a writer who wants to make a comic, but you're not sure if your script is good enough, first of all, again, believe in your comic. Second of all, pledge here, and I will do a portfolio review for you and help you on your way to making comics, because
now,
I want
go
ahead.
Yeah, I have seen these tiers before.
Go ahead.
With different campaigns, and they're usually $100 to $150.
Oh, I'm not worth that.
and it comes with, like, it's a Skype call. I'm like, you mean like I'm doing right now with you for nothing?
Well, you also get the comic, but I'm just saying, like,
you
most
get the comic
for the
$25 for the comic, and you get coached.
Yeah, because I want to help people. Like, I acknowledge my worth or lack thereof, and I can say that I've published comics and that I want to help you make them. So if you need a little help, I'm here for that.
Pay it forward.
Yeah. Now this one is another popular one because, as noted, there's people who just want physical copies of the book, and I'm fine with that. So if you, to the left this time, if you want to read my whole series from the start, but you want it in physical copy, I will send you all 6 issues right to your door, and you can choose between getting the volume 1 version alongside 5 and 6, or getting all 6 individual issues so you can see all the beautiful covers that Alex Garcia made. So
yeah, but you're right. There are people who they don't want to have digital. They are the people who, let me tell you, man, I like to have my hands on the digital copies, dude.
Yeah, man.
Dude, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, man.
We gotta have the digital. We gotta have the digital for the people who want it. But me, I gotta have. They're like boobs. They're fun to look at, but I like to have my hands on them.
I wouldn't know. I'm single.
That's a Stan Lee quote, by the way.
Really?
Supposedly.
Supposedly.
He thought a digital comics. He's like, well, they're like boobs. They're okay to look at on the screen, but I'd rather have them in my hand.
I mean, I don't want to hear Stan say that, and yet I can totally see him saying that. Oh, Stan, we miss you. We miss you, Stan. All right. Okay, this one.
He was at the age where he didn't give a care anymore.
Fair enough. Okay, this next one, the $50 pledge, is easily one of my most popular across my entire Kickstarter career. If you want to get drawn into the comic, there you go. We will draw you in a panel in the comic. We will ask for a reference photo for you, or you can have someone cameo if you want to surprise them. I've had that people do that with kids, their girlfriends. It's a thing. And so we only have 3 left. So you definitely want to get that in before. Again, you got like 21 hours left. So if you want to get drawn to the comic, go. This is the tier to do it. And if you need to catch up on a series, I will make sure you get all the previous issues to go along with your cameo. So And then the $75 tier is the extension of the $25 one. And the $25 one, I gave you a portfolio review, but just to help you with the script. If you want a step-by-step guide on how to make comics based on how I do it, which I'm going to have published a lot, this is the tier to get to. I will give you step-by-step guidance from comic creation, finding an artist, using the websites that I have used, or including Facebook, promotion where possible. I will give you like places like this to, even though if you're watching this, you already know about RJ, but I'm just saying.
Send them on anyway.
But send them on anyway. I know plenty of people who will interview you about your comic. I will help you even set up your Kickstarter based on ones I've done and successful ones I've seen in the past, like some friends of mine. And I will help you to get your comic published one step at a time. So, and as you can see, someone's already pledged to that. I actually know the person who did that, and their daughters want to get into comics. And so they did that pledge so that I can help them. And I'm happy to do it. And I'm happy to do it for you. So
there you go.
Yeah.
As we're getting close to the top of the hour here, I do want to remind people that when we are done, do pop over to the Mike Stand, Mike Walters' channel, where he will be covering all the niche news of comics, anime, manga, and professional wrestling, because it all goes together. I still don't know why, but it just does. And, tonight's, tomorrow's new comic book day. So tonight he's going over the new releases to see what's coming tomorrow. Yeah. So pop over there at the top of the hour, right when we're done here.
And then
we have one more tier.
Yeah, that last tier is the ultimate tier. This is if you like physical comics and you are intrigued by all the series I've talked about today, I will send them to you in physical copy for $150. That is Guardians, Home, 10,000 Miles, Thunder Rosa, and all 6 issues of Tokyo should you need them. So
now,
that's
45 comics.
Roughly. Yeah.
Roughly.
You won't get the Sherlock novels. I have to caution, this is just for comics. The digital tier includes the novels, but this is just.
That's about a fourth of a long box.
Yeah, that's still a lot of comics across multiple genres, superhero, sci-fi, fantasy, Disney, Pixar
You
style.
will not come out of the bathroom for 3 hours.
Something like that.
Yeah. Okay, so we all have our reading habits. What am I? When I was in college, my roommates used to say that my bowels were connected to my optic nerve. I couldn't go if there wasn't anything in front of me to look at. But that's neither here nor there. It's too much information and has nothing to do with tonight's thing. Okay, general trivia.
Okay.
Black Magic Wolf Productions. What was this? Another pick 3 things?
No, this one's actually a little more simple. When I was in college, my best friend Ro gave me the nickname of Black Magic on accident. In my very arrogant phase, which I'm clearly out of now, wink, I used to have a catchphrase called "I'm magic," and I would use it at the times where I felt that my magic had shown itself to the audience, if you will. And me and Ro used to play card games all the time, and I beat him in a game where I should have totally lost. I mean, I was like dead in the water. I should have lost, and I totally beat him. And he goes, "How did you beat me?" And I go, "I'm magic." And he goes, "Yeah, black magic." And I go, "Oh, I love it." And he hated it because he just realized he gave me more ammo to use against him. But I became Black Magic. And so when I was in college thinking about making a comic book, among other things, I realized I should have a company name. And so I'm like, oh, it's easy, Black Magic Productions. And for a while I used that because I didn't know any better. And then I started to make a logo. I asked for help making a logo, and a guy put a website link. It called Black Magic Productions. And I'm like, wait, has someone already taken this? And sure enough, it's a sound company in Las Vegas. And they were actually at a Comic-Con I was at once. But I'm like, okay, I can't use Black Magic. Well, what do I do? I'm like, well, what's your favorite animal? It's a wolf. So Black Magic Wolf. And that
they know how to handle it. Yeah,
exactly. It's the simple things. And then I had a logo made, and that was it. I've been using that for years. It's absolutely beautiful. And so I'm Black Magic Wolf Productions.
See, now I'm going to have to see. I wouldn't know how to design a logo for Black Magic, but I do have a Midjourney account, so I'm just going to see what the AI would produce for Black Magic. Have you played with the AIs on Midjourney and AI art?
I stay away from it. I'm just like, I can barely do stick figures. And so just seeing what the AI makes just would depress me more.
Yeah, well, that's the point. You don't have to draw anything.
Well, I know. It's a very hot topic issue, and I'm just like, I'm fine with not doing it.
Yeah, people get into it and they're like, oh, here are the prompts I used to make this almost realistic looking figure. And that it's like a paragraph that you had to describe everything. And I'm like, I just like to give it something nebulous.
Ooh,
and say, like when I tested putting it into my own Discord server, I got to say, imagine something. So I said, imagine. And it will surprise you with the beauty that it will come up with sometimes.
Oh, yeah. I if you're doing it for fun, it can be a total blast. Just to see what you do, and I totally condone that. It's just I know a lot of people who are mad that AI is being used to make comics versus hiring actual artists, and so it's a hot topic, and we won't go into it hopefully too much. But
it's good for backgrounds, I find, but you'll never be able to do a whole character-driven story for it.
And as I said, like one of my joys as a writer is working with these artists to like, I was talking with someone about, they were trying to encourage me to get in art. And I'm just like, I don't have the time. I don't have the ability, and I definitely don't have the patience, but I can take solace in the fact that I will find artists like Glam Vivant and Alex Garcia and Beth Vardy and all these people who have helped me, Matt Maldonado, who have helped me over the years making covers and interiors. And I appreciate the journey, as stressful as it is, to find these artists, because when I find that perfect match, I know we're going to make a great comic. And the results for me speak for themselves, because I sell books galore at Comic Cons, and I enjoy showing these people these new stories. Like I hope some of you will try out Tokyo. So I mean, the AI is fine, but I like people because I know I can work with them and I can help them on their own comic journey. So
yeah, this is what what it came up with for Black Magic. It always gives you 4. Not bad, interesting little pieces, but nothing's a logo.
Yeah, the second one kind of reminds me of Wednesday Addams.
Yeah, which by the way, I really loved. I binged the whole thing.
Nice.
Even though it was CW Harry Potter, it was still
CW. Don't give them any ideas.
No, well, it was written by Millar and Guff. I mean, the same guys who did Smallville. They were the showrunners, so that's why it had that CW feel to it.
Oh.
But all right, enough Discord. I mean, it's appropriately named Discord.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I had another question. I thought I did, but now it's not there. I'm going to scroll up to the top because surely we're no longer at just 82 backers. It's been an hour now. We should be at 82 backers.
Shame.
Okay. 20 hours to go on this, folks. So let's I mean, it is funded, but
oh yeah, we're funded. My goal with these have always been to try to get to 100 backers. Clearly, we're probably not going to get to this time, but if we can get as close to 100 as possible, that makes me smile, because it means that you've trusted me to make the story for you. And like I said, we got a lot of great rewards still, so give it a chance. I can fairly guarantee you will not be disappointed.
Yeah, but at 1433, this is still a loss until you get to the conventions and make money back on the physical copies.
I've honestly, just being completely blunt, I've never made a profit on these bloody Kickstarters, and I'm fine with that. For me, it's always been about just making the books and knowing that they're done. We're actually right now on page 15 of 20. So we're going to be done hopefully by the end of the year, and then we'll get them out to backers, which I'm thrilled about. But as long as we make the goal and we make the comic, I'm the happiest man in the world. Because
there you go. You've still got to finish making it. And you've got time.
Yeah, I got time.
Let the Kickstarter expire. Jump right over to Indiegogo. Kick that off with a $500 minimum flex goal, which means that whether you make 500 or not, you're still going to produce, because you are going to produce. You fund it here, and go hit that market.
There you go.
Don't leave money on the table. Because the one thing that I like about Indiegogo over Kickstarter, and there are many things. One of them is the fact that they take your money right away, rather than wait until the thing's over and then surprise you if you forgot because you're old. But they, you can go 30 days plus another 30 days. I know Kickstarter, you can go 60 days if you plan ahead and do that. But afterwards, as long as you're selling books, you can leave it up in demand, and it's just like an online store.
That's clever.
And a lot of people have been in demand for a long time. They just use it as a store until they get the next book done. Are you doing any other titles right now, or are you going to finish Tokyo Blade Detectives all the way through before you switch tracks and get on another title? I mean, because companies put out multiple titles a month.
Yeah. Currently, I am blessed enough that I'm able to do. I am working on multiple titles right now. Tokyo is the big one for me. That's already out in part with the 5 issues. But I'm working on a heist comic called Take the House, which hopefully will release next year on Kickstarter. And that one's a project that I've also had in my head for a couple of years, and we're finally getting to make it. It has such a unique look to it, RJ. It's really cool. And then I'm starting work right now on a new mystery comic called Crusader Mysteries. It's basically my take on like Scooby-Doo, Only Murders in the Building, that kind of feel, atypical detective solving crimes. And I also have a science comic called Seekers of Science. I mentioned it earlier. We're trying to get that going again. We have 4 issues out right now on seekersofscience.com. So go check that out. So like I said, I've got fingers in a lot of pies, just trying to, make comics, have a lot of fun doing it.
All right. I'm going to throw that link out there in the chat just for the people who want to see it. And I'll throw it up here for people watching the replay so you know exactly what to type. Pause. Write it down. Okay, you got it now. Excellent. All right, Todd, thank you so much for coming on and talking about your comic with us, talking about comics in general with us, and sharing the passion that you've obviously got for your projects here. It's contagious enthusiasm, and if more so than talent, contagious enthusiasm will help you sell something to somebody because they want to see what's so fun about it.
Yeah, thank you, RJ. I do love making comics, even in like the stressful days of like making Kickstarters, because Kickstarters are so stressful. But the end results speak for themselves, and I'm thrilled that I have so many comics out, and I'm making more, and I can't wait for people to see this issue and the rest of the arc, and we're just going to keep on going until I have no ideas left to make.
Fantastic, and that will be, you're a writer. Yeah. I swear to God, the no ideas left to make is they lower you in the ground, they throw the dirt on top of you, they all leave, and 30 minutes later, a hand comes up with a pencil in it and starts scratching on the tombstone.
There you go.
One last one.
I have one more to do.
Do this.
Yeah.
All right. Everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being here tonight to participate. We don't have a show without you. We're just a podcast falling in the woods otherwise. And as always, while you were here, we just hope you had a blast. Good night, everybody.